Hello, this is episode 35 of Women of the Future. In this series, we are looking at a variety of subjects that are of interest to women all across the globe. And the aim of the series is to impart tools as well as insight and wisdom into spirituality so that you could find something that you resonate with. Today's topic is a very interesting one. It is entitled, "Are you karmically rich or poor?" I don't know if you have asked yourself this question at any point in your life, but if you have, I would like you to measure your own answer to the one that you're about to receive right now. Sister Denis is with me in the studio today. A very warm welcome. It's great to have you back.
Thank you.
Now tell me, Sister Denis, are you karmically rich or poor? I find the title very curious because there is something within us that stops us from setting up a balance sheet where you are able to answer this question objectively.
Because everything is to do with your previous life.
Which is invisible.
Completely invisible, inaccessible. Maybe there are some indicators that you can look at, and let's try and point our finger at some of those.
I want to stop you right there, Sister Denis. In order to understand the law of karma, one has to know what about reincarnation?
Well, you have to know that I, the soul, with all of my actions, I carry my actions, my specialities, etc., my experiences from one life to another to another. And so when I come in, I don't come in with a blank piece of paper. I come in with some consequences of actions, thoughts, words, actions from a past life. And I will reap the fruit of these, and I will take birth according to these in this life. And so where you're born, who you're born with, what your characteristics are, what your challenges are, and so on, in really almost a total way, it is a product of what you have set up before you came in here. And so where you've got a lot of fortune, karmically rich. Where you've got a lot of big challenges, there's some debts to pay.
Okay, so how does one know in this area, this is my karma, in this area, this is my karma?
I think it's quite intuitive. You know, sometimes people will say, what did I do to deserve this?
Yeah, that question is often asked from the perspective of being a victim of circumstances.
Yeah, we very rarely, well, sometimes we do say, you find yourself in a very beautiful situation, you say, why me, what did I do to deserve this? It can work that way as well, but you know, most people are having more debts than credits.
Yeah.
And so the overall balance sheet, if you do start to try and create some sort of balance sheet, you'll see there's maybe a lot more negative than positive. And so if you say, okay, if I'm karmically rich and I have to pay some debts, it's going to be easier for me. If I'm karmically poor and I have to pay some debts, I don't have the wherewithal to settle them, so I will have to suffer a lot. So I think, you know, if a person comes in born really happy disposition, like you, for example, that's a good kind of karmic wealth, you know, because you can manage things more easily because of that disposition. That's karma, you know. And then there's others who the slightest little thing will make them depressed. You might want to say there's a bit of karma there too. So here we are in the present moment. What can I do about my karmic wealth or poverty, you see? So generally speaking, what we would say is this present life that we're in right now, all of us, is a very good opportunity to accumulate karmic wealth and settle karmic debts. So therefore we need to use this life, our thought, breath, that means words, our energy, our opportunities, connections, whatever, we need to use them to create karmic wealth.
Now that takes a sense of refinement, doesn't it? Because when you look at the way we function normally, and I'm referring to practically every woman who's watching you, we tend to make a decision that this is what I want to do, motivated by this reason, whether good or bad, and we go ahead and do it. And Sister Denis, we are not that far-sighted, are we? It takes a rare human being who thinks, I'm about to say this, what is going to be the karma of this? It takes a rare human being to do that. We have some vague understanding of the law of karma, but we don't actually use it in our day-to-day lives.
I think that's why spiritual practice is a really good thing to do, because you get taught and you practice again and again. Look before you leap, think before you think.
Sister Denis, what does that mean, to think before you think? I've never heard that before.
Consider what you're about to think. Consider what thoughts you're entertaining in your mind.
And if you don't like the thoughts that are in your mind, you do what with them?
Stop them, remove them, put them away, create something new. Well, thoughts come in tiny little, almost imperceptible feelings, and then they come in very clear, powerful mental images and words and so on. So a thought will arise in your mind either from the inside, which we say in our spiritual terminology from a sanskar, from your subconscious, or it will come because of a sense perception. And sometimes you get a sense perception and an inner urge coming together and producing a thought that you say, it popped into my mind, right? And then you can pop it out again if you don't want it. But sometimes it pops in and it takes over. And then you have to deal with it, because very often people find that I do not want to be thinking like this, but I can't get rid of it. Well, even you have this experience, a song goes in your mind, it won't go away, you know. So it's an interesting situation to realize that the thoughts that are in my mind will stay there only if I let them. So there has to be an area in your consciousness, a part of your consciousness, which has the power to evict unwanted thoughts, and also which has the power to sustain and enhance wanted thoughts. And that we call the intellect.
Okay, so how does suppression fit into the picture that you just described? Because suppression is not healthy, is it? Whereas managing your mind is.
Right. Suppression is sort of the act of you're just squashing, you see. So the thought is an energy. And if you squash that down, it's going to come out somewhere else, and maybe more powerfully, more negatively. So suppression from that angle is not productive. If you say, I'm not going to suppress you, I'm going to say, you go over there for now, and I'll talk to you later. Because, you see, the energy of that thought that's arising wants to be dealt with, wants to be heard, you know, because it's a part of your being that's coming up for a reason. And so you can very productively say, this is not a good time, we'll meet each other later on, because sometimes you need time to work through the stuff that was raised in your mind or provoked or something, because there are things, monsters, sitting in your subconscious, something will make them come up and they have to be dealt with. A part of your character that you hadn't dealt with before says, okay, it's time now. But it's not a good circumstance. So there you say, I'm not going to just suppress you, that's not a good idea. But we're going to need to have a meeting with each other, we're going to need to take time to really work through what this all is. Just like you would do with a person.
Okay, Sister Denise, we covered the aspect of thinking before you thinking, which I'm sure is a surprise to many women watching you. In terms of speech, how does one conduct oneself in such a manner that whatever you say serves you to the highest possible potential? Because words can create negative karma. That's what you are saying, aren't you?
Yes, exactly.
So how do we speak? Sister Denise, I am thinking of situations where we all find ourselves in, where you are required to speak firmly or impact on somebody in a harsh manner, because that's what the situation demands. So how do you express yourself and not create negative karma through words?
Well, it's all to do with being proactive, isn't it? A word can be provoked by another person saying something where your words are a reaction to what they said, and that would be reactive as opposed to proactive. So in that situation, you would need to catch the energy of your words before it comes out of your mouth and decide, how do I want to say this? And you may create little techniques for yourself, and you may say, well, you know, I'll talk to you about this later. Because if you're emotionally aroused, you're much less in control of what you're going to say, or the tone of what you're going to say, and so on. So then you need to delay your response to it.
Okay, so what you are saying is, don't speak when you're angry.
Definitely.
Oh, but so many of us do.
Well, of course, because we don't have control.
So when you're angry, close this.
Well, when you're angry, you need to realize that what you do when you're angry is usually regrettable. So better find a way to say, this is not a good time, or even say, look, you're making me very angry here and I don't want to do something regrettable out of anger. Let me calm myself down and get back to you. You could do that.
That's an act of power, but it takes a very exceptional individual to pull that off, male or female.
But we can work towards it.
Okay, so when it comes to the realm of speech, one has to have very firm control over one's emotions.
Oh yeah, yeah, because you see, these emotions, what I call negative emotions, get provoked by sense impressions, which is somebody else's words is a sense impression. And so you have to really create a policy that I choose to respond to provocation only after I am calm, cool, calm and collected, and then I will say what I want to say, not what you sort of cause me to say by provocation. You see what I'm saying?
Okay. Okay, Sister Denise, I'd now like to go to the field of actions, where we have all done things that we have regretted. And the other type of regret is, I should have done this and I didn't. How does one fix that? Before we even get to fixing it, how do I ensure that that which I do brings a positive return? What do I do? What is the thought or forethought that I apply to such a situation?
You know, in consciousness, every action starts with a thought which will get verbalized either internally or externally, and then it becomes an action. So there's that, the thought is the subtlest, and then the word is the next level of gross, and then the physical action is serious act. And of course the act has much more consequences than the word and more than the thought, right? But it comes like that. So when you're working on controlling your thought and your words, you automatically have control over your actions because you're taking it to the root.
Okay. You said that one can look at the life that one finds oneself in, and you are able to then judge whether in this area of your life you have good karma or bad karma. It's rather obvious, isn't it? Because good karma implies happiness and joy, and bad karma implies that in this area of your life there's sorrow, pain and sorrow.
It's quite interesting to look at the very detailed aspects of karma because, you know, in order to be happy, you need health, you need a good place to live, you need good relationships, you need intelligence, you need beauty, and so on and so on. There's specific things. So in life, you have many opportunities where you can be generous or selfish, where you can cause benefit to others or cause harm. So in the particular areas that you act towards people, this is going to result in what happens to you. So, for example, if you tend to be very hospitable and give shelter, you're always going to receive hospitality and shelter. If you arrange for someone's education, it's going to result in you having a good intellect. If you arrange for someone's hospital care, health care, you're going to get a birth with a good body, a good healthy body, and so on and so forth. So it's very, very much this eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. The law of karma works like that.
Many a woman has found herself in the position where she's been on the receiving end of negative karma. Now, is it ever okay to take the karmic law into your own hands? And by that I mean revenge, any act of retaliation, even retribution and wanting to feel vindicated. Where does that fit into the karmic wheel?
Well, you can never take the karmic law into your own hands. You can take the law into your own hands, but not the karmic law.
Okay.
If you take the karmic law into your head, then you will act properly.
Okay.
But you can't adjust the karmic law.
Okay.
If you decide you're going to act out of vindictiveness or so, then that's karma. If you do a karma that is revenge, well, the other one's going to take revenge back and there'll be an escalation. So, you know, when a person knows about this, they try to feel, you know, this thing which is happening to me, is it because I'm settling a debt or not? If you feel intuitively, if you're tuned in well enough and you feel, yeah, I'm just settling a debt here, then do nothing. Definitely don't take revenge because you start it up again. And what we learn in spiritual practice is most of the things that happen to you that you could say, what did I do to deserve this? Well, your answer could be, well, you probably did something.
That's very painful to admit, even to oneself, even at night, by yourself, in the dark.
We would say this because of the context of the greater time cycle. So in spiritual knowledge, we do talk about a huge karmic wheel. And we think that this life, which is such a difficult one for most people, is so because lots and lots and lots of karmic debts are coming up for payment, you see. So if we say to ourselves, okay, I'm in the period where karmic accounts are paid, so I need to be karmically rich. I need to have a lot of, you know, wealth of having done good action, because that is going to help me to settle any kind of debt that comes along, which takes the form of suffering, you see. So if you have karmic wealth, it takes the form of an ability to manage difficulties, and then it sort of neutralizes everything. This is really what we're looking for.
There are many who are watching you right now who were raised to believe that God is the hand that metes out justice and, you know, punishes. Many on the planet believe that. Is that the case, Sister Denis? Is he a judge and executioner?
Well, you know, if you would ask God, if you could ask God, you know, God would say, well, you know, I'm known as love, truth. I know the laws of karma. I don't need to make them work. They work by themselves.
Okay, so God is separate from the law of karma?
Yes.
Okay, very few know that. Most people think that the two work together. The energy of God and the law of karma work together.
Well, you know, in many ways, God is neutral and cannot really do too much about what you as his child do, because you're playing with a machine, the law of karma, which, I mean, God can teach you how the machine works so that when you play with it, you reap benefit. But if you play with that machine of the law of karma by acting in such a way that you will pay, you will suffer, then you know, God can't do very much more than say, well, I told you so. But I don't think that God can stop the activity of the laws of karma.
How does he fit into the picture as far as one's own karmic burden is concerned? Is he involved at all?
Yes.
And how so?
In two ways. One is, as the teacher, God will tell you, this is the machinery of the law of karma and this is how it works. Come and study with me and you will really understand it well. It's rather like the laws of physics. If you understand it well, you can build rockets and bridges and whatever, because you know how it works. The law of karma is there to show you how life works. So if you understand the laws of karma, you can create a very good life for yourself. Second area in which God is operating is God will say, okay, you have a lot of karmic debt. If you tune yourself to me, you can draw power from me, which will give you the karmic wealth that will enable you to settle the debt.
Wow. Most people, women and men, Sister Denis, do not know that. When we're desperate, we ask, beseech, beg God to help us, to give us power, to give us strength. We do not see him as part of the machinery that can settle debts.
Well, this is because people have very little information about God, and so God has to present himself to humanity and say, you know, I do exist. Many of you don't quite understand me as I am and what I am, but here I am, and if you will try to understand me and understand what I do and how I do and what I don't do and what I know, you will be better off, you will be enriched, and you will be in a better position to run your life knowing all these things. And so I think definitely God is offering her wealth and presence and power to humanity, but then it depends on each one. Do you want it? Will you take it? Which bit will you take? How will you take it? You know, it depends on if you have love for God.
The expression that I've heard far too often is someone being a victim or feeling like a victim as far as their karma is concerned. You hear people saying, women saying, this is my karma. What can I do? I'm married to this person, it's my karma, what can I do? What makes one feel that you're stuck? And is a person actually stuck, or can you change the direction irrespective of how bad the situation is?
I think that, okay, you arrive in a situation and you ask yourself the question, what can I do? Well, you have to think, there are many things you can do. So don't just ask it as a rhetorical question, but it's a real question. I can meditate, I can cultivate the power of tolerance, I can develop many virtues and qualities which are all going to change the quality of the situation and maybe even the direction of it. See, because if you just stay stuck in the situation, you'll kind of perpetuate it. But if you work with it and try to bring in as much of different kinds of positive energies as you can, you're going to shift it.
Okay.
And that is called settling the karma. It
Yeah.
may be your karma, but then you have to settle it, not wallow in it.
And pain is not the only currency in which one could settle. There's other ways of paying.
The usual thing is pain, but if you can manage pain, if you can shift yourself out of suffering into tolerance, accommodation, remembrance of God, the whole thing shifts.
Okay. Okay, Sister Denis, we have to say goodbye to the viewers right now. This has been an exceptionally enriching half an hour, and thank you for that. There you go. What does the law of karma mean? Are you karmically rich and poor? I strongly suggest you take out pen and paper and assess your own balance sheet. And the deepest message I got from today's talk is Sister Denis shared that you're not a victim. You can settle your karma through a means other than pain, which is a very powerful message for us to imbibe and become. Thank you for joining us, and goodbye.